London, the city of opportunities and broken hearts. The loud hum of traffic echoed through the streets. The streetlights of London shimmered against the chilly night air, their glow reflecting off the rain puddles that still clung to the pavement. In a luxurious bar near the prestigious Westminster Medical Hospital, the soft murmur of music intertwined with the laughter and chatter of patrons lost in their drinks. In a secluded corner, Stella Carter nursed her third cocktail, her gaze fixated on the flow of traffic outside the window. She wasn't someone who drank often, but tonight she needed something to numb herself, to make her forget the weight pressing heavily on her shoulders. Working at Sterling Financial was anything but easy, especially with her family constantly pushing her to prove herself in the cutthroat world of finance. She had no time for love, nor had she met anyone who made her feel safe enough to open her heart. But tonight, she wasn't here because of work or her family. She had just brought a close friend to the hospital, but when the doctor assured her that it wasn't anything serious, she decided to give herself a night to unwind. A colleague had invited her out for drinks, and she had agreed. Yet instead of feeling relaxed, she felt emptier than ever. Not far away at the bar counter, a tall man sat with a glass of whiskey in hand. Jason Thompson, a brilliant doctor, but at this moment, whiskey was the only thing keeping him from confronting the harsh reality he faced. He had once believed in love, had once thought he would have a happy family with the woman he adored. But Athena Smith, the woman he had once wanted to marry, had betrayed him right before their wedding. He had walked in on her in bed with another man. From that moment on, his trust was shattered beyond repair. His colleagues had dragged him here, and he had downed a few drinks to dull the pain. But no amount of alcohol was strong enough to erase the image of Athena's betrayal. Lowering his whiskey glass to the counter, his unfocused gaze swept across the crowd, and then he saw her. Stella Carter. Stella felt slightly dizzy. She set her cocktail down and attempted to stand up, intending to leave the bar, but her body wavered unsteadily. Jason instinctively stepped forward, catching her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his deep voice laced with the slight slur of alcohol. Stella looked up at the man before her. His face was blurred under the golden bar lights, but something in his eyes made her feel safe. "Thank you, but I'm fine," she murmured. Yet as she tried to walk away, her legs refused to cooperate. Jason steadied her once more. In that moment, intoxication clouded his mind, and in a drunken haze, he saw Athena. "Have you come back to me?" he whispered. Stella didn't understand why her heart pounded at his words. She didn't know who this man was, but perhaps because of the alcohol, she didn't care. "Who are you?" she asked softly. Instead of answering, Jason suddenly pulled her into a tight embrace. Every ounce of reason in Stella seemed to vanish. She could have pushed him away, could have said no, but she didn't. She was tired of living rationally. For the first time in her life, she decided to let go of all logic and surrender to the moment. No one could recall who suggested it first, nor did they know why they left the bar together. Jason's apartment was only a few minutes' walk away, and when the door closed behind them, the warmth of alcohol and loneliness drew them even closer. Stella knew what she was doing, but she didn't regret it. For once, she wanted to experience a night of passion, without attachments, without responsibilities. Just once, she wanted to live like a normal person, not as the girl who always had to prove herself. Jason, on the other hand, couldn't remember much of what happened afterward. There was only the familiar sensation, like he was holding Athena in his arms again. But somewhere in that haze, something felt different. That night, there were no promises. No future was set in stone. There were only two lonely souls seeking solace in each other for a fleeting moment. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating the room still thick with the remnants of the previous night. Stella woke up with a pounding headache. She opened her eyes and froze at the sight of the man lying beside her. Jason stirred awake as well. When he saw Stella, he was stunned. His mind was blank, fragments of memories from the night before flooding back. But the face before him was completely unfamiliar. "What happened?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Stella didn't respond. She only knew one thing. She needed to get out of there immediately. Frantically, she searched for her clothes while Jason struggled to piece together the events of the night. Just as he was about to ask for her name, She had already rushed to the door and disappeared. Jason remained on the bed, clutching his head. The splitting headache made it impossible for him to recall the details of the night before. He felt guilty. A strange sensation crept into his chest, an unsettling feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. He tried to recall the night's events, but all he found was chaos. Stella, however, was different. She ran as if she were escaping, her heart pounding violently. What had she done? Last night she had given away the most precious part of herself to a man whose name she didn't even know. But that wasn't the scariest part. The terrifying part was that, for just a fleeting moment, she had felt happy. Welcome to Soul Stories. Pukal. Life can be overwhelming, but here we share heartfelt tales to bring you peace, joy, and inspiration. Your support, every comment, like, and follow, means the world to us. It motivates us to create more meaningful and uplifting stories just for you. Subscribe now and be part of a community that spreads love, kindness, and positivity. Let's make every day a little brighter together. 3 weeks had passed since that fateful night. Stella had buried herself in work, trying to forget everything. She didn't want to think about Jason, didn't want to remember that strange feeling she had waking up that morning. But fate had its own way of arranging things. Today, Sterling Financial, the firm where she worked, was hosting a large-scale charity event to raise funds for underprivileged patients. Major hospitals across the city were participating, including Westminster Medical, where Jason worked. She didn't think much as she stepped into the lavish banquet hall where London's top entrepreneurs and doctors had gathered. Stella quickly blended into the crowd, focusing on her task, representing her company in partnership negotiations with various healthcare institutions, until a deep, familiar voice called out from behind her. "I didn't expect to see you here." Stella froze. She recognized that voice instantly, no matter how much she had tried to forget it. Her heart pounded as she slowly turned around. Standing before her was Jason Thompson, still tall, still exuding an air of quiet confidence, but his gaze now carried something else. Scrutiny. She couldn't believe her eyes. What the hell is happening? Jason recognized her immediately. The delicate arch of her brows, those bright yet slightly anxious eyes, and the unmistakable hesitation in her expression upon seeing him. The blurred memory in his mind became clearer. Those eyes, he had seen them that night. She was the girl from that night. Jason didn't know how to react. He only knew that something inside him stirred. Ever since that hazy night, he hadn't actively searched for her, and yet her image had lingered at the back of his mind. And now, seeing Stella right in front of him, he couldn't look away. He couldn't ignore her. Unlike Jason, Stella was panicking. She didn't want to face him. She didn't want to revisit the past. "Sorry, I'm busy." She turned swiftly, heading toward the banquet table where her boss stood. But Jason wasn't going to let her escape so easily. "Wait." He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. His voice wasn't loud, but there was an unshakable force in it that made it impossible for Stella to ignore. "I don't think we have anything to discuss, Dr. Thompson." Jason's brows furrowed slightly. She really wanted to avoid him, but that only made him want to know more about her. No matter how much Stella tried to avoid Jason, fate kept pushing them together. A few days later, Jason happened to be driving near his hospital. Stopping at a red light, his gaze unintentionally landed on a familiar figure, Stella Carter stepping out of an obstetrics clinic. Jason immediately sensed that something was off. What is she doing there? He watched closely. Stella didn't notice him. She stood in front of the clinic, one hand resting lightly on her stomach, her expression conflicted and hesitant. Jason's brows knit together. An idea flashed through his mind. "No way! Is she pregnant?" His breath caught in his throat. His heart started pounding harder, a wave of confusion washing over him. No, it could just be a routine checkup. But why did she look so anxious? He continued watching as Stella walked toward the parking lot, her hand unconsciously smoothing over her stomach. Jason felt his chest tighten. If his intuition was right, could that child be his? For days, Jason couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. He tried to approach Stella, but she avoided him at every turn. Once he deliberately visited her company, representing the hospital in a business discussion. But the moment their eyes met in the conference room, Stella immediately looked away. Yet Jason wasn't giving up so easily. One afternoon, he waited at a cafe near her office. When Stella walked in, he immediately approached her table. "What are you hiding from me, Stella?" he asked, his voice calm but his eyes piercing. Stella jolted slightly but quickly masked it with an icy demeanor. "I don't know what you're talking about. I have nothing to hide." Jason leaned forward, his hands on the table, his gaze sharp enough to make her feel breathless. "I saw you at the obstetrics clinic. You're pregnant, aren't you?" Stella's heart skipped a beat. She clenched her fists under the table, trying to hide her panic. "Were you following me?" she deflected. Jason let out a soft, humorless chuckle. "I don't need to follow you. I just happened to see you. But I want an answer, Stella." Stella felt like a storm was crashing down on her. She had tried to run from the truth, had drawn clear boundaries between her and Jason. But now her secret was exposed. Taking a deep breath, she looked directly into his eyes. "Yes, I'm pregnant." A dizzying sensation swept over Jason. His entire world seemed to stop for a moment. "The child is mine, isn't it?" Silence. For a few seconds, Stella didn't answer. Then in a quiet but firm voice, she said, "Yes, but you don't have to take responsibility." Jason stared at her, a storm of emotions raging in his eyes. This couldn't just end like this. He didn't know what lay ahead for them, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. Ever since Jason found out about Stella's pregnancy, he couldn't take his eyes off her. No matter how hard Stella tried to avoid him, he kept finding ways to be present in her life. Not out of obligation, but because he genuinely cared. He showed up at her company, using the hospital's partnership with Sterling Financial as an excuse to see her. But each time, Stella remained distant and indifferent, refusing to engage with him. He waited outside her house, unwavering, whether in the biting cold or pouring rain. She could ignore his calls, refuse to open the door, but Jason wouldn't give up. He even reached out to Stella's mother, hoping she would convince Stella to stop pushing him away. But Stella stubbornly kept her distance. "I don't need you to take responsibility, Jason. I can take care of myself." "Taking care of you and our baby isn't about responsibility. It's what I want to do." "I don't want a man staying by my side just because of a child." Jason's gaze darkened. "Then can you honestly say you feel nothing for me?" Stella fell silent. She didn't answer. And that silence gave Jason hope. Because deep down he knew, somewhere in her heart, there was still a place for him. Even as Stella insisted she didn't need Jason, his small, unwavering gestures slowly chipped away at her defenses. One late afternoon, after an exhausting day at work, Stella was walking home when a sudden wave of dizziness hit her. Her vision blurred, and she stumbled, about to collapse onto the pavement. Just as she thought she would fall, strong arms caught her. "Stella, are you okay?" Jason's voice was laced with worry. She looked up, meeting his gaze. Not the cold, detached doctor, nor the proud, stubborn man, but someone who genuinely cared. What are you doing here?" "I was just passing by." He lied, but Stella knew. He had been waiting for her. Jason helped her into his car and drove her home. He cooked for her, despite her repeated attempts to tell him to leave. She watched him tie an apron around his waist, focused on preparing a meal for her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt warm. One late night, Stella fell ill after overworking herself. A fever burned through her body, chills racking her limbs despite the heat radiating from her skin. In a half-conscious state, she heard a knock at the door. Exhausted, barely able to stand, she forced herself to open it, only to collapse straight into someone's arms. "Damn it, you're burning up." It was Jason. She had no idea how he had known to come, but at that moment, she didn't have the strength to push him away. Jason carried her inside, laying her gently on the bed before rushing to place a cool towel on her forehead. "You don't have to do this," she murmured weakly. "Stop talking, just rest." His voice was firm but laced with tenderness. He fed her warm porridge, made sure she was comfortable, and stayed by her side the entire night. At some point, her fingers instinctively reached for his hand. Jason clasped her hand tightly, wordlessly promising, "I won't leave you." He spent the whole night by her side changing the cold compress, watching over her. And when she woke up the next morning, she found him asleep beside her bed, head resting on the edge, hands still holding hers. Somewhere along the way, Jason had woven himself into Stella's life, a presence she could no longer ignore. At first, she convinced herself that she was merely leaning on his concern, using him as a temporary comfort during this difficult time. But day by day, the warmth and sincerity in his every action slowly made her waver. When she was exhausted from work pressure, he appeared with a cup of herbal tea, saying it would help her relax. When she went to her prenatal checkups alone, he would be there, waiting outside the clinic, even though she had never told him. When she felt lonely, he took her for quiet walks in the park, listening patiently to everything she wanted to say. There were moments she thought about pushing him away, but Jason never left. One late afternoon, as a light drizzle fell over London, Jason suddenly appeared, running toward her with an umbrella in hand. "Why are you here?" Stella asked, surprised. "Because you hate walking in the rain without an umbrella." He smiled lightly, holding it up over her. She stiffened slightly. How did he know that? For the first time, she realized he had been paying attention to even the smallest details about her. They continued walking under the soft rain, saying nothing, but Stella's heart pounded in her chest. She was growing accustomed to Jason's presence, to the way he noticed the little things, to the quiet concern in his gestures. And though she didn't want to admit it, she knew that something inside her had changed. Gradually, he became a part of her life. From someone she once tried to avoid, Jason had become a constant in her everyday moments. They went to her ultrasound appointment together, and for the first time, Stella felt true joy when she heard their baby's heartbeat. Jason froze, his hand unconsciously tightening around hers. They walked through the park together, saying little, just enjoying the simple peace of each other's company. On the night she couldn't sleep, he stayed beside her, telling random stories until she felt safe enough to drift off. Bit by bit, Jason became a part of her world. The burdens, the worries, they no longer felt as suffocating. And for the first time, hope began to bloom inside her. Hope for a family, for a home. But just as Stella started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could trust Jason, the nightmare returned. Athena came back. Part 5. Athena returns. The nightmare resurfaces. Athena had always believed that no one could ever replace her in Jason's heart. He had once loved her madly, willing to do anything for her. But now, he was having a child with another woman. She wouldn't accept it. Jason still belonged to her. And if she couldn't have him, then Stella wouldn't have him either. Athena didn't return to Jason's life just to cause trouble. She came back to take back what was rightfully hers. But she didn't need to act rashly. She knew women too well. All it would take was a seed of doubt, a single crack, and Stella would walk away on her own. Athena made her move at a charity gala, where both Jason and Stella were in attendance. Just as Jason turned around, Athena wrapped her arms around him from behind, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "Jason, it's been so long. Did you miss me?" Jason immediately pulled away, his gaze turning icy cold. "Athena, don't do this!" But it was too late. Stella had seen everything. From a distance, her heart clenched. She reminded herself Jason didn't love Athena anymore. But then why was she acting like that? And why didn't Jason push her away more forcefully? The next few days, Stella's phone was flooded with anonymous messages. Photo: Jason and Athena holding hands at a romantic dinner. Photo: Jason kissing Athena's forehead, his eyes soft and full of something deep. Message: Jason, I know you still love me. She's just a replacement. Message: you don't have to take responsibility for her. Come back to me. We belong together. Stella felt her entire world shatter. She wanted to believe Jason, but what if the photos were real? What if, in Jason's heart, she was nothing more than a substitute? Since when had she become so afraid of losing him? From that day on, Stella started avoiding Jason. She stopped responding to his messages immediately. Her embraces no longer felt natural. Jason noticed right away. Stella, what's wrong? He caught her hand, concern deep in his eyes. Nothing. She smiled, but it was so painfully fake that even she felt her chest tighten. Jason wasn't a fool. He knew something was eating away at her, but she refused to tell him. And that was all Athena needed. A single crack in trust was enough to bring love crashing down. Late at night, Jason sat alone in his luxurious apartment, the warm glow of the lights casting long shadows against the cold walls. Today, he had spent the entire day thinking about Stella, about the way she avoided him, the worry flickering in her eyes whenever he spoke about their future. He loved her, but she still didn't fully trust him. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Jason frowned. Who would come at this hour? When he opened the door, he was met with the last person he wanted to see, Athena. She stood there, her golden hair slightly tousled, her eyes shimmering with feigned vulnerability. Jason, her voice was soft, almost trembling. Jason's expression hardened, his voice turning ice cold. What are you doing here? Athena bit her lip as if holding back tears. I just want to talk. Please, just this once. Jason inhaled deeply. He wanted to shut the door in her face, but in the end he stepped aside. Athena sat on the sofa, her eyes discreetly scanning the apartment, as if assessing how much had changed since she left. Jason stood a few feet away, arms crossed, his stance filled with wary impatience. Say whatever you need to say, Athena. I don't have time for this. Athena sighed, giving him a sad, wistful smile. Jason, I know there's nothing between us anymore, but I truly wanted to apologize. She hesitated, then added, Can I have some water? Jason didn't answer, but he turned toward the kitchen. Athena watched him go, her eyes gleaming with something dangerous. The moment he disappeared, she swiftly pulled a small packet of white powder from her coat pocket. Moving quickly, she approached his half-finished glass of water on the table. Without hesitation, she emptied the entire packet into the drink, stirring gently until the powder dissolved, leaving behind only a faint, almost imperceptible residue. As Jason returned with her glass of water, Athena immediately stepped back, feigning innocence. Thanks. Jason set the glass on the table without a second thought. Then he picked up his own water and took a long sip. The trap was set. Less than 5 minutes later, Jason began to feel strange. The room blurred at the edges. His limbs felt heavy, his eyelids drooping involuntarily. Something was wrong. His body wasn't responding the way it should. His fingers dug into the armrest, his head spinning as the world around him warped and swayed. Jason blinked rapidly, trying to force himself to stay alert. His gaze flickered to Athena, and in that moment, he saw it. The smirk playing at the corner of her lips. Or was that just his imagination? Athena, what did you do? His voice was weak, barely more than a whisper. His hands instinctively gripped the couch, as if trying to anchor himself. Athena rose slowly, her fingertips trailing along his jawline, her voice as soft as silk but dripping with malice. Just a little help, Jason. Now, sleep well. Her voice was the last thing he heard before everything faded to black. Jason slumped against the couch, his body limp, completely at her mercy. Athena's lips curled into a victorious smile. Quickly she moved. She unbuttoned Jason's shirt, tousled her own hair, then climbed onto his bed, wrapping herself in the blankets. She carefully staged the perfect scene. She draped her arm across his chest, resting her head against his shoulder, arranging herself as though she had just drifted off after a night of passion. Then she reached for her phone. Dialing a number, she smirked as the call connected. Bring her here. Make sure Stella sees this with her own eyes. With that, she set the phone down, closed her eyes, and waited. The final act of her deception was about to begin. A call came in the middle of the night. If you want to know who Jason really is, go to his place, right now. A cold shiver ran down Stella's spine. Her heart pounded uneasily, but despite the warning bells in her mind, she grabbed her keys and drove there. Images flashed through her thoughts. Jason's gentle eyes, the way he held her hand when she had a fever, the way he touched her belly whenever he talked about their baby. But what if it was all a lie? By the time she pulled up in front of Jason's house, her hands were trembling. Her chest tightened painfully. She opened the door, and what she saw shattered her world. Jason lay on the bed, his shirt unbuttoned, his breathing even, as if he had just fallen asleep after a long, passionate night. Beside him, Athena. Her hair was a mess, her bare arm draped across Jason's chest. A satisfied smirk played at her lips. The rumpled sheets, the closeness of their bodies, it all painted an unmistakable picture. Stella froze. The air left her lungs. A sharp, piercing pain stabbed through her chest. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to believe it wasn't real. But the image before her was too clear. Her hands clenched into fists. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps. She wanted to scream. She wanted to break everything. But instead, she turned and ran. A noise jolted Jason awake. His head felt heavy, his body sluggish. But the second he registered what was happening, his blood ran cold. Athena, next to him. But worse, Stella, running away. Jason's entire world tilted. "Stella, it's not what you think!" He leapt out of bed, his body still weak from whatever Athena had done to him. But she was already out the door, already running. Jason chased after her, his heart hammering in his chest. But by the time he reached the street, her car was gone. She was gone, and he was left standing there, helpless. Jason spun around, his gaze dark with fury. "What did you do?" His voice was low, dangerous. Athena simply smirked, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. "I told you, Jason." She stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. "If I can't have you, Stella won't have you either." Jason's fist clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Had he lost her forever? Jason refused to let things end like this. The moment Stella ran from him, he rushed to check his security cameras. His blood ran cold as he watched the footage. Athena slipping something into his drink. Jason drinking it, collapsing minutes later. Athena undressing him just enough, wrapping herself in his sheets and setting the perfect scene. 15 minutes later, Stella arrived. Jason's fist clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Stella has to know the truth. He grabbed his keys and drove straight to her house. When he arrived, Stella stood at the door, her expression hollow and drained. "I don't want to hear any more excuses, Jason," she murmured, her voice devoid of emotion, as if she had already lost all ability to feel. But Jason wasn't giving up. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and played the footage. "I didn't betray you, Stella. Athena set me up. You have to see this." Stella trembled. For a moment, she hesitated, then her eyes locked onto the screen. Athena drugging his drink, Jason falling unconscious, Athena creating the illusion of a scandal. The truth was undeniable. A sharp gasp escaped Stella's lips. Her hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with pain. She had doubted him. Jason watched her carefully, his voice raw with emotion. "I would never betray you, Stella. Everything I've done has been to protect you and our baby." Her heart ached violently. She had believed the worst of him. She turned away from the screen, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jason, I believe you. But why did you meet her at all?" Jason let out a weak, bitter laugh. "I won't ever make that mistake again. I swear, Stella, I will never lose you again." And slowly, they began to heal. A moment of peace before the storm. Jason and Stella repaired what was broken. They started spending more time together again. He took her for walks in the park. They shared quiet dinners, just the two of them. Today, Jason brought her to the shopping mall, hoping to help her relax, to ease the pain of the past. They stopped in front of a baby store, looking at clothes and toys for their unborn child. Jason placed a gentle hand on Stella's growing belly, his voice filled with warmth. "I can't wait to meet our baby." For the first time in days, Stella smiled, but their nightmare wasn't over. From afar, a pair of furious eyes burned into them. Athena, her nails dug into her palms, her entire body trembling with rage. She couldn't stand this. Jason was hers. Her fury erupted the moment Jason touched Stella's stomach. She wouldn't let this happen. She wouldn't let Stella have this baby. If she couldn't have Jason, then Stella wouldn't get a happy family either. Jason and Stella were walking toward a cafe near the mall's grand staircase when it happened. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Stella's arm and yanked her back. She spun around, stunned. Athena! Let go of me! Stella struggled, but Athena's grip tightened. Her eyes blazed with madness. Did you really think you could steal Jason from me? That you could have his child? Jason turned just in time to see it. His heart stopped. Athena shoved Stella. Everything happened in slow motion. Stella lost her balance. Her foot slipped off the edge of the stairs. Jason screamed. The crowd gasped in horror. Stella tumbled down the stairs. A sharp pain stabbed through her stomach. Blood. Darkness consumed her. Jason fell to his knees beside Stella, his face drained of all color. Call an ambulance! Now! He roared, his voice echoing through the chaos. Stella lay still on the cold, hard floor, her once pristine white dress now stained with blood. His hands trembled as he pressed against her belly, trying to stop the bleeding, but all he felt was the chilling sensation of loss. She was losing too much blood, and Jason, a doctor, knew exactly what was happening. They were losing their child. No, no! Stella, stay with me! Please, don't leave me! His voice cracked, his desperation raw. Through heavy lids, Stella's tear-filled eyes met his. Jason, our baby. Save our baby. Then she lost consciousness. The ambulance screeched to a halt, medics rushing in. Jason clutched her hand tightly, his eyes red, his soul drowning in agony. Athena, restrained by security, was handed over to the police, but she didn't struggle. Instead, she smiled, a cruel, victorious smirk. Because she had won, Stella would never bear Jason's child. The surgery lasted for hours. Jason sat outside the emergency room, unmoving, his hands clenched into tight fists, his nails digging into his skin. His entire body shook with fear and rage. He had failed to protect her. He had failed to protect their baby. Every passing second was torture. Then, the door finally opened. Jason shot to his feet, eyes filled with desperate hope, but the doctor only shook his head. We did everything we could, but she lost the baby. A knife stabbed into Jason's heart. The world around him blurred into nothingness. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. They had lost their child. His child. Gone. Jason staggered back, his hands clutching his head. He wanted to scream. He wanted to destroy everything. He wanted to demand the doctor fix this, change this, undo this. But it was too late. Nothing could bring their baby back. His body felt numb. His soul felt shattered. When Stella woke up, the world was silent. White walls, the sterile scent of antiseptics, the deafening emptiness. She felt nothing. Her eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't move. She simply laid there, arms wrapped around her stomach, as if trying to protect something that was already gone. Her belly was still there, but her baby wasn't. Her precious child was gone. Jason sat beside her, his face broken, his voice hoarse. Stella. She didn't answer. She didn't even look at him. Nothing, just emptiness. Jason's heart twisted in fear. She was still breathing, but it felt like her soul was already gone. She just lay there, eyes hollow, lifeless. He squeezed her hand, but she didn't squeeze back. Jason had seen death before. He had seen patients give up on life, but nothing terrified him more than seeing Stella like this. Days passed, then 2, then 3. Stella remained the same, silent, motionless. Jason never left her side. He held her hand, whispered to her, begged her to come back to him, but she never responded. Her once warm, bright eyes were now cold and empty. Jason felt helpless. The woman he loved, the woman who had once fought so fiercely, was now just a ghost of herself. Then on the 4th day, she finally spoke. Her voice was so soft, so fragile, like the whisper of the wind. Jason, I can't stay anymore. Jason's breath caught in his throat. He gripped her hand tighter. No, don't leave me, Stella. We'll get through this together. But she shook her head. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Jason, I lost our baby. Jason felt his heart collapse. I know. I know you're hurting, but we can get through this. I swear we will. Stella finally turned to look at him, at the man she had once loved, the man she had once trusted. But now all she felt was pain. She reached out, softly cupping his cheek. Her touch was gentle, almost like a goodbye. But I can't, Jason. Goodbye. And then she turned away. Jason sat there, frozen. His world crashed down around him. He had lost his child, and now he was losing her too. There were no screams, no accusations, no anger, just a broken heart that no longer had the strength to keep fighting. And Jason could do nothing, nothing except watch the woman he loved walk out of his life. He couldn't run after her. He couldn't stop her. He couldn't fix what had been shattered. All he could do was watch the love of his life disappear. Stella had spent a year rebuilding herself. She had moved to a quiet seaside town far from the chaos of London. She wanted to leave behind the pain, the memories that haunted her, the love that shattered her. Her life now was simple. She worked as a receptionist at a small hotel, waking up to the sound of waves, watching sunsets in solitude, trying to find peace again. But some nights, she would wake up, her hands instinctively clutching her stomach, the place where her child once was. The ache never truly left, and Jason, no matter how far she ran, his shadow never left her thoughts. A year of searching. Jason had spent a year searching for her. He left his hospital, abandoned his prestigious career as a surgeon. He traveled to every place he thought she might be. But she was nowhere, and he never stopped blaming himself. If only he had protected her better. If only he had stopped the nightmare before it happened. He could still see her in his dreams, the way she used to look at him, full of emotions she never voiced. He remembered the way she touched him for the last time, as if she had already chosen to let go. But he couldn't let go. He couldn't forget her. She was everything. And then he found her. One day, Jason drove into a small coastal town. He was no longer the famous surgeon from London. He wanted to start fresh, to live simply. He walked along a quiet street, and then he saw her, Stella, the woman he had searched for, longed for, dreamed of, for an entire year. She stood behind the hotel reception desk, flipping through some paperwork. The afternoon sunlight bathed her in a golden glow. She looked thinner than before, but still breathtaking. Jason stood frozen in place. Was this real, or was his mind playing another cruel trick on him? Stella. Her body stiffened. That voice, a voice she thought she would never hear again. Slowly, she looked up, and the moment their eyes met, the world stopped. Her breath hitched. Memories rushed back, crashing into her like tidal waves. She didn't know if she should be happy, angry, or heartbroken. She only knew one thing. Jason was standing there. Not a dream, not a ghost. He was real. I've been searching for you for a year. Jason stepped toward her, his eyes filled with longing and fear, as if he was afraid she would disappear again. I've been looking for you for a year. His voice was hoarse, raw with pain, regret, and desperation. Stella's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She couldn't let herself fall so easily. She had spent a year trying to move on. She couldn't just collapse back into his arms. Jason, why are you here? Jason's gaze softened, filled with an unbearable intensity. Because I can't live without you. Her heart twisted violently. She turned away, not wanting him to see the emotions flickering in her eyes. A love worth fighting for? Jason didn't beg. He didn't plead for her to take him back. He knew she needed time. But this time, he wouldn't let her go. So he stayed. He took a job as a doctor at a small-town clinic. Not a high-profile surgeon, just a simple man, wanting to be near the woman he loved. And like before, he quietly became a part of her world. He walked with her along the beach. He sat in silence with her at sunset. No pressure, no demands, just patience, just love. One evening, as they walked along the shore, Jason reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Instead, she held on tighter. Jason turned to her, his eyes full of hope. "Will you give me another chance?" Stella took a deep breath. She was no longer the same broken woman from a year ago. She was stronger now, but her heart, it still wasn't fully healed. "Jason, I'll give us a chance, but this time let's take it slow." Jason smiled, holding her hand like a precious gift. "I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. Just don't leave me again." Stella looked at him. For the first time in a year, she felt her heart come alive again. Maybe love had never truly left, and maybe this was their chance to start over. After deciding to stay in the coastal town, Jason rented a small space near the shore to open his own private clinic. He was no longer the renown from London, no longer chasing titles, prestige, or pressure. The only thing that mattered now was being close to Stella. His clinic was modest but warm. His patients weren't the wealthy elite, but local fishermen and townsfolk, genuine, hard-working people. He learned to slow down, to embrace the simple joys of life, and each day he had one reason to keep going. Stella. At first, Stella kept her distance. She wasn't ready to rush into anything. She was afraid of repeating the past, of getting hurt again. But Jason never pressured her. He was simply there. Each morning when she left for work, he would smile at her from across the street. Each evening, he somehow always ended up walking the same path she did. Dinners became less tense. Conversations felt lighter. And slowly, Stella realized she had never stopped loving him. Her love had never died. She had only been too scared to face it. And when she looked into Jason's eyes, she knew. He was still the same man who had loved her unconditionally. This time, she was ready. One evening, as Stella walked along the shore, Jason appeared beside her. He smiled, but tonight there was something different in his eyes. "Want to take a walk?" She nodded, unaware of what was about to happen. The waves brushed against their feet, the cool ocean breeze tangling through her hair. Then suddenly Jason stopped. He turned to her, his eyes brimming with love and sincerity. "Stella." Her heartbeat quickened. Then he knelt on one knee. She gasped. Jason pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. "I can't promise you a life of luxury. I can't turn back time to erase the pain we've been through. But I can promise you this." His voice wavered slightly, but his gaze was unwavering. "I will love you for the rest of my life. I will protect you, and I will never let you go again." Tears welled up in Stella's eyes. "Will you marry me?" She looked into his eyes, the eyes of a man who had changed his entire life for her. This time she didn't hesitate. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Jason. I will." A radiant smile broke across Jason's face as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her close. This wasn't the end of a tragic love story. This was the beginning of something beautiful. They didn't want a grand, lavish wedding. They wanted something simple, something real. So beneath the golden hues of the setting sun, by the sea, they exchanged their vows. Stella wore a soft, flowing white dress. Jason stood before her, unable to take his eyes off the woman he loved more than anything. Before their closest friends and the kind-hearted townspeople who had become their second family, they promised each other, "From today I am yours and you are mine. No more fear, no more loss, only love." As the priest declared them husband and wife, Jason leaned in and kissed the love of his life. This time, there were no misunderstandings, no pain, no heartbreak, only love, complete and eternal. A year later, a miracle. 1 year after their wedding, Stella and Jason welcomed a beautiful baby boy, a child they once thought they had lost forever. But life had given them a second chance. As Stella cradled their son, Jason sat beside her, unable to hold back his tears. He gently took her hand, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, then to their baby's tiny hands. "Thank you for coming back to me." In their small seaside home, they lived a life of simplicity, but filled with love. Jason was no longer a famous surgeon. Stella was no longer a woman running from her past. They were simply a family. In the end, they found peace after the storm. Love isn't just about the sweet moments. It's about patience, perseverance, and forgiveness. Loss doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something new. Time teaches us what truly matters. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to love again. Because true love always finds its way back. Even after the darkest nights, even after losing everything, if two hearts still beat for each other, there will always be a second chance. Thank you for following this heartfelt story. If you believe that true love can withstand all trials and sometimes begins in the simplest of ways, don't forget to hit the like button and share this story with your friends. To never miss out on touching and meaningful stories, subscribe to our channel and help us spread messages of love and warmth to everyone. Let's cherish the beautiful moments of life and love together.